Representative Candelora.
In 2005, the Connecticut legislature passed a bill creating the right for every adult person in Connecticut to enter into a civil union. Faced with social pressures and calls for reform, the legislature, by a majority vote, created this right to permit two individuals of the same sex to enter into a civil union, thus conferring upon them the same rights and benefits as a married couple. Regardless of one's views of civil unions, one must respect the role of the General Assembly to set social policy through the legislative process. And I respectfully suggest that the Supreme Court respect this legislative process as well. Recognize the artful expressions of Judge Pittman in the Superior Court case that involved this issue. She stated that the role of the General Assembly is to arbitrate public policy, and legislation born out of this body is presumptively constitutional. The judicial branch should not interfere with the determinations of the General Assembly as to the provisions of law which are intended to further the welfare of the citizens of Connecticut. Thank you.
Reverend Soderberg.
Thank you.
I hail from the congregational tradition. We came from a land seeking freedom, landed on Plymouth Rock in 1620. We traveled from Massachusetts with Thomas Hooker and settled in the Connecticut Valley seeking freedom. Reverend Hooker preached a sermon called The Fundamental Orders, which led to the creation of what we know as the Constitution State, that an area would be governed by the will of the people.
And this is why we're rallying today, folks. No matter what the judges say, they do care about public opinion. They saw, these state Supreme Courts saw the overwhelming reaction on the national level against Massachusetts, against what happened in Massachusetts, and they said, whoa, this is too hot. Let's kick it back to the legislature. But for that public reaction, I am convinced that several more state courts probably would have done what happened in Massachusetts. But when public opinion is overwhelming, when it's unmistakable, the courts, they may not admit it, but the courts will pull back. That essentially is probably why the phrase "under God" is still in our Pledge of Allegiance. In fact, if you don't do this, if you do impose same-sex marriage on us by judicial fiat, it would basically be the greatest judicial usurpation of the democratic process in Connecticut's history. So we want to say to the state Supreme Court, do the right thing, let the people decide.